for you. That alone will shift things. Yes, hi. Okay, great, because we're wrapping up right now and it's perfect.
Like what happens when you like set the boundaries with those relationships that you have in your life and they get pushed, like even though you've built up like all of those things and they just like disregard them, and then you're kind of like back to square one, so you don't know.
Right. So that is a really good question. What do you do when you've set boundaries, you make boundaries, and then the other person doesn't respect them? So like, there's like a million answers to that, right? In different situations, in different scenarios. So let me just listen for a moment, okay? Do you mind? And then you guys are gonna be up in just a second, Jared and Lindsay. The scale of difficulty in setting boundaries and keeping boundaries depends on how close that person is to you. If it's a family member like a mother or a parent or a kid, those boundaries feel a little bit more difficult because those relationships are unlikely to end. Other relationships that are boyfriends or friends, you're living in your own home space, and so it's a little bit easier to manage the boundaries. I feel like that's what the Lord's going. So there's a scale of difficulty in terms of like, okay, so how do you manage these boundaries? That was one part. Second part that I felt the Lord was responding to is saying, this is this great adventure where the Holy Spirit wants to give you wisdom in every single moment of every day as you continue to walk these boundaries. And then this is the second part that I hear, and you guys, if someone hears something else, you're welcome to throw it in. But I hear, this is what I hear, is physically remove yourself from the space. So one of the things, Greg and I, we were overstepping each other's boundary when we would get upset with each other, and we would start yelling and screaming, and we had made a deal that we wouldn't do that in front of the kids. But every once in a while, one or the other of us had a hard time remembering that in the moment. So, and I'm sure all of you can relate to that at some point or another, right? And so we were relying on whoever had better strength in the moment to hold the boundary. So we were like, only one of us can be a child abuser at a time. You know, so one of us has to pull our poo together and get the both of us to another space because we can't both lose it in front of the kids. So we actually made that deal. We had a partnership, and we were like, so when I was yelling at the kids and he came in, he was not allowed to come in and yell at the kids too. He had to be the voice of sanity. And then if we started getting frustrated with each other in the situation, he would like, so we had deals, we made deals ahead of time. This is how our relationship works. And we even we said, here's another part of our thing. We don't yell at each other. That's not how we communicate. So one of our deals is, doesn't matter how we were raised, doesn't matter what we are used to, yelling is not an effective form of communication. It doesn't honor myself, and it doesn't honor the other person. So anytime you are yelling at me, I will leave the room. I will leave the house. I will, and the same is true for him. Anytime, Ange, you're yelling, now unfortunately he has not set the boundary, or maybe you should, anytime the house is total disaster, like I get to throw your crap away. He hasn't said that. I know, I'm giving you the most horrible idea. Like if there's stuff to be picked up, it's like it's going out the door. No, please don't do that, but it would be a boundary. Would I fix my stuff if that were the boundary? Right, now, does he want to do that to my stuff? I don't know, but it's his space too, and he gets to set, so I say that in saying, we've had some family relationships that have been super challenging because there are people who feel a sense of control and power by stepping over boundaries. Anybody know anyone like that? Certainly it's not any of us, I'm sure. But we know people who feel a sense of power and control when they, are you saying yes? Is that me? Are you saying that's me? No. This is my daughter. Right? So when we get to become powerful people by keeping those boundaries and finding the creative way with the Holy Spirit to keep the boundary. When we have someone in our life who actually gets a sense of fulfillment or satisfaction from overstepping our boundaries, then we got to find ways, protections and ways to put things in place where those boundaries are actually kept. Because there is not a single person on this planet that legally gets to have full access to us. We decide who gets to have access to us. We decide what we allow in our environmental and home space. Nobody gets to come in and yell, throw, abuse, emotionally pressure another person and have that ever be any form of acceptable. Ever. Yeah. Hang on, David. And then we'll end, because I'm sorry, we're running over and we need to end for you guys.
The relationship between David and Saul came to heart in terms of David was always about honoring the position, honoring Saul's position.
Yeah.
Even though he was being chased and to be killed by Saul. There were opportunities David had to take Saul's life, but he honored Saul's position. And that wasn't great for Saul. Like he didn't respond well to that. His response wasn't, well, you honored me by not killing me in the cave, so
now I'm going to honor you.
Yeah, no, it just didn't. So, but he, like you said, removed himself continually from the situation, from that relationship until, it was probably David's desire that be reconciled and that.
Yeah. Is it going to be hard on somebody who you have carried their junk for a long time and you now no longer carry their junk? You no longer allow them to scream and yell at you. You no longer allow them to bring their dirt into your house, in that metaphor. That is a relationship change. That is a huge shift. And there are some people who will become powerful people and who will become healthy. And there are people who will not.
Yeah.
But your love and acceptance means that you actually give them permission to become healthy, and you give them permission to not become healthy. You give them permission to not become healthy. And you no longer demand that person become healthy, but you no longer live your life with your personal space totally combined. So that's like a long walking out kind of a thing in many places and in many marriages, as you're you're learning how to become healthy really for the first time ever in your entire life. And it's such a great adventure. I don't know that I answered that very well for you at all. But here's what I hear from the Lord. I hear the Lord saying that you are magnetic, that you attract so much beauty and joy in your life, and that there are people who are so drawn to the flame of who you are. And I feel the Lord saying that all of what is surrounded your life isn't a reflection of the value of you. It is a reflection of the compassion that you have for the hurting. And I hear him saying that you are a powerful, bold, and brilliant, he keeps using the word brilliant, lover of people, and that he loves your heart for others, and that he is bringing your relationships into rightness. I almost feel like a click. Like when a puzzle goes into a puzzle piece goes into a puzzle, and it has that satisfying little snap. I feel the Lord going, I'm bringing your relationships into right fit and right relationship, and that he loves the partnership that you have with the Holy Spirit. And I hear him telling me that you hear him really, really well, and that maybe you don't even recognize how often you hear him, but he says you hear him really, really, really well. And if you would trust yourself, that you know what to do in so many situations that you've never known how to trust yourself fully in. And he says you are trustworthy with every secret of the Lord's. And that you were meant to carry the heart of God into every circumstance you go into. So I hope that was okay for me to share. It kind of put you on the spot, but I just felt it bubbling up in me. Okay, we're going to turn it over to Jared and Lindsay, and we're going to bring kids back in. Yay. I hope that wasn't too big. I felt that was a huge risk. So,